wanttoberecycled.org. A public service advertisement brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Ray Schwetz, and our guest today is Michael Breitman, CEO, Action Coach of Metro New York and the Berkshires. So let's get into the theme of your coaching.
Well, the theme of my coaching is effective delegation, as opposed to the alternatives, which is abdication or not trying to delegate at all. We had at one of our national conferences, we had Stedman Graham, who's Oprah Winfrey's main squeeze, as a speaker, and he summed it up the best. He said that the great equalizer for all of us is 24/7, 365. We all only have 24/7, 365. And he said that, the billionaires, for the most part, there's a little bit of luck involved, but for the most part, they just get leverage on their time by delegating, effectively delegating. And so I'm going to tell you a horror story. It's not pleasant, but I had a very close friend who passed away within the last year, who had a major business here on Long Island, 75 employees, over $60 million a year in revenue. And unfortunately, my friend abdicated everything other than his vast knowledge of his product and his service. And he abdicated his financial management to the wrong person, and that person defrauded him. And that business and those 75 jobs are gone. And so that's an extreme case because that involved fraud and some illegal activity.
But the lesson's there.
But the lesson there is that, and one of the things I really work with my clients about is for them to understand enough about what's going on around them. I'm not trying to, for example, I work with several doctors in leadership at Winthrop, and I'm not trying to make them entrepreneurs, but I'm getting them enough business knowledge so they understand what the administration is doing to keep them in front of patients, and so that they can do business plans when they want to expand an area of practice or that kind of stuff. And so, a business owner needs to have enough knowledge about all the aspects of the business so that they can effectively delegate those activities rather than just, I don't know about that, you take care of it, which I know I was guilty of when I had my business. Yeah. And luckily I avoided any major problems with that, but it can happen.
Yeah. Take us through the process of your training so that people understand what it is you do.
We begin by doing, with potential clients, a diagnostic appointment or a complimentary coaching session, as we call it, where I am, frankly, looking for value I can unlock in my client's business that will make my services free, essentially free, within a reasonably short period of time. Once we begin, we start with what is known as an alignment, where I get their personal goals aligned with their business goals. And I can't tell you how many times I've found people and business owners who had business goals and personal goals that were, frankly, in conflict with each other. They, I need to go to my kid just made it to the high school baseball team, but I want to grow sales by 25% this quarter. I don't know that that's going to happen, and so.
Not simultaneously.
Not simultaneously. And so, that's just one example. And so we get the alignment, and then, and this is very important, we do a workshop quarterly, which is called Growth Club, which is a 90-day planning, working on the business planning exercise, which lays out weekly tasks and goals and activities for the business owners. It's not a classical business plan with budgets and this and that. This is, if I'm going to increase my sales, over the next quarter, I think I need a new brochure, and so week 1 I'm going to outline it, and week 2 I'm going to find a graphic designer, and week 3 I'm going to, write some of the text, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And so we work on a 90-day cycle with our clients, and we keep them accountable to those business plans. So that's an integral part of what we do. But it's all, kind of based on the custom delivery of several closely followed action coach concepts. One of which is the action coach business chassis, or what is known as the 5-way formula. And the other concept that we talk about all the time is 6 steps to massive results. For example, the 5-way formula talks about counting and tracking number of leads that a business gets, and then what their conversion rate is. And for example, I won't have somebody increase their conversion rate. The number of leads if their conversion rate is bad, because they're just going to burn those leads. So we'll work on the conversion rate first, then we'll work on getting their leads up. And there's 3 other factors to the business chassis. And so, we apply it in a customized manner to every single business that we coach, because there can be 2 businesses in the same office building in the same business, started on the same date, and yet they're in totally different places at any given point in time.
You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC. My name is Ray Schwetz, and our guest today is Michael Breitman, CEO, action coach of Metro New York and the Berkshires. So I'm hearing basically that there's, and certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like there's 3 times where really a business owner should seek your help. And 1 is when they're starting out, 2 is when they're growing, and then 3 is, if they're considering exiting or selling the business. And I know you and I were having a discussion before the show, and I think that's really important to talk about. So do you want to talk about that now?
And I'm glad you stated it that way, because even though I did turn around work, I'm not interested in doing rescues. I will, but that's not my prime spot.
Yeah, no, the way we were talking about is much more proactive.
Oh, yeah, and that's the perfect word, because we get our clients from as early as possible planning their business. All sorts of plans, classical business plans, hiring plans with triggers. I have a client who's an architect up in the Bronx who is about to move her practice out of her house, and she had a hiring plan and an organization chart, what her business looks like 3 to 5 years down the road, triggers. So when the revenue gets to this point, I'm going to hire another CAD operator, et cetera, et cetera. And so all that's kind of, we have the roadmap in place. And so it's all about being proactive. You're absolutely right about that. That's one of the things. But the other thing that, there's, I think we mentioned, for the last 7 years and for the next 11 years, on average in the United States, 10,000 people turn 65 every single day. That translates to, by the way, 250 on Long Island, just by simple proportion.
Wow.
And so there's enormous business opportunities to service the needs of more senior citizens, but there's a lot of businesses that are going to change hands in the next several years. And I think there's some pent-up demand for that, because people were waiting for the economy to really get into a high gear and turn around. And so, but I have several friends who are business brokers who have been sending their clients to me because their businesses weren't prepared to be sold, and they weren't prepared to maximize the value. And that's all about having plans and executing those plans and having hiring plans and having the right people in place so that the business is not totally dependent on the owner working a tremendous amount of hours. One of the questions we ask people is, are you the lowest paid person per hour in your business? Because you're working so many hours. That becomes very, very important.
And I'm sure that they don't look at it that way because it's their baby, so they're just investing their time and they just assume that's the way it goes. But,
right. Yeah.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Because that's the time is the most valuable commodity that you have.
Exactly. And we concentrate on, as we always say, time, team, and money, with time being the only non-replenishable resource of a business. And so that becomes very important. So time management, I do monthly seminars, and one of my favorites is called Time Rich. We do another one, Service Rich, and we do Delegation Rich. And another one, how to take your business from good to great. And I do those on a rotating monthly schedule.
And those seminars it's amazing how thought-provoking they are, because it really does make you wake up and go, well, what if this situation occurred with my business? How would I handle that?
Right.
Or have I planned for that? And I know we were talking before we even started about, with the, in terms of being approached for the exit strategy. Well, what if somebody comes around and offers me, money for my business? Is that the right amount of money? How do I know?
Right. People, unless they're maximizing the value, I've seen clients who think their business is worth, like 5 to 10 times more than it's really worth. But you can, if you put the right infrastructure in place and build the business, you can achieve that. One of the smartest things I heard the founder of Action Coach say is that if you're a business owner, your product is not the product or service that you offer. Your product is the business. And even if you have no plans to sell the business, if you structure it as if you were going to sell it, you have a much more valuable business. And you'll have more money and more time and a better team.
That sounds like the way to go. Now, how can our listeners find you, Michael?
Well, they can find me at Michael Breitman and that's spelled Breitman actioncoach.com is my little piece of the web real estate. My blog is Action Coach Michael Breitman, all is one word, .com. Or can I give my phone number?
Please.
516-801-6452, extension 1.
And if you're a business that's in any of the situations we discussed, that you definitely owe it to yourself to reach out to Michael. He's a great resource, a great connector, and a good friend. So thank you very much, Michael, for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, pleasure's all mine. I'm going to end on this inspirational quote from Bill McCartney. All coaching is taking a player where he can't take himself. We want to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Denisha Boston-Hill, your co-host and producers. The creative director of Tower Talk Business Radio is Rudy Breedy. This is an NCC Foundation Business Leaders Council production. Visit ncc.edu/WHPC for more information. Available on iHeartRadio as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation. On the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. We'll talk with you next week.